Hi, I'm Dave, and you're listening to A Conversation with Angie and Mike, a podcast from Somewhere House, Somerset. Each episode, we meet people with inspiring stories, from local community groups to fascinating organisations, and explore how mental health has shaped their journeys. Somewhere House, Somerset is a small charity supporting people across Sedgemoor with counselling, group sessions, and community activities. To find out more or get involved, visit our website or email info@somewherehousesomerset.org. Let's get into today's conversation.
Dear.
Yeah.
Hi, Max. Thank you very much for joining us back on our podcast.
Hello, both. Good to see you again. It's my third outing on this.
Is it your third one? Is it? Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for coming back.
So, what's been happening since we last saw you?
Last time I saw you, we spoke about. I remember we were talking about sort of my masters, which is now completed. I've completed my masters in this last summer, so I can now add 2 letters to my name. M.A.X.M.A. Max M.A. Which is quite nice. Yeah. And it feels nice to have completed that. Something I carried for 3 years. So it feels really good, and it's opening up loads of possibilities and other areas of work. But more than anything, one thing I got from it is actually really helped me to change how I practice, and both as a teacher and trainer, but also as a therapist. I've really developed a much better understanding of ethics and research and reflection, and it's been really good. It was overall a very positive experience. A lot of people ask me, what are you going to do next? Are you going to do a PhD? And I'm like, no, not for a long time. I have no desire.
It's a possibility then. It's not a no-no. You might do, but in the future.
If the right circumstances and the right time came, I may consider it. But right now, I actually want to enjoy just life without having to carry the workload and the headspace that it takes, something like this,
How long does a PhD take?
How long is a piece of string? Depends.
Really?
Depends on how much you can dedicate. Often what happens, people get sort of seconded by a university, and you actually get a salary and dedicate, say, maybe 1-2 days a week to do that. In that case, you could do that perhaps in 2 or 3 years. But some people take like 10 years to do it because they do it alongside other things. So it's a very loose approach in that sense,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you educate yourself, and I'm sure there's lots of people out there that feel this way, that education has its place at its time, if you see what I'm saying. And sometimes when you're in certain stages of your life, not just with your work, but also with your family, you've got to be sensible about what you're taking on. Because I know so many people that have started courses and never, ever finish them because they just can't actually cope.
Yeah.
They've taken on more than they can chew, really.
I'm one of those. I actually started my master's just shortly after finishing my core counselling training when I was working with you, Angie, at the time, and my son was just newly born, and I realised after 3 months that it wasn't the right time. I waited 10 years, and then it was the right time. I mean, I imagine it will also be something to consider. Maybe when my children are grown up, they left home, they're at university, or doing their own thing, I will have a lot more space. Right now, my focus is more on my family and then myself,
And it's that bit about prioritising, isn't it? And I think that then comes back to practice as well. It's about when you're in practice, being able to prioritise the client above everything else, because that's fundamentally what you've got to do.
Exactly.
Also having the ability to be able to do that, bearing in mind what's going on at home or what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's got to be the right time, and sometimes you kind of almost like got to wait a little bit until things come along and present themselves in your path, rather than sort of forging ahead, kind of thinking, I really want to do this. Sometimes I'll just see what the universe brings in my direction, and if that's a PhD and a possibility, I might take that on, but I've got other priorities and focus at the moment,
And I suppose you touched on the word of ethics there, and I think that's a really important part of, like, for us as a charity, the ethics of how people can work and how we do as a charity. And I think people don't often think like that unless you're in our kind of work. But there's ethics in all kinds of works, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's something really important about, personally, and this is something I've been reflecting on quite a lot as I've entered, my 50th, I'm 52 now. I've got more of a strong sense of identity. One thing that I realize is that I want to make choices in my life that are aligned with my values. I want to show up as the kind of person that I want, what would take me towards being the person that I want to be. And I think that's values and ethics is kind of quite similar, isn't it? About what we want. How would I want somebody else to conduct themselves or myself? It's really important.
But
this isn't anything from going to the supermarket to actually training, whatever it may be, you know? Yeah.
Do you find that, because you're not in like a therapeutic environment in that sense, do you find that in how you present yourself in your line of work?
I think it's really important how you present yourself, yes. Is that what you mean? Or?
Yeah, but I mean, because we have, as therapists, for example, they have very clear ethics that we are supposed to work by.
Yeah.
And I say this suppose because not everybody does, but you work by those ethics, and they're quite strong guidelines, really. And I just wonder, because you don't have an affiliation necessarily to a specific organisation, do you?
Well, I'm a member of the British Computer Society.
British what?
Computer Society.
Didn't know they existed.
They had a code of ethics.
Yeah.
Did they?
Yes. But it's just not as well. No. I have letters after my name as a result. But I think there's a code of ethics, but I think I couldn't tell you what those code of ethics are. I don't remember the last time I looked at them. But I anticipate, I'm guessing here, but they are the usual, which is, doing the right thing, morally doing the right thing, treating people fairly and all of that kind of stuff, really. I don't think it's going to differ much from your code of ethics, but yours are going to be more about kind of the health and care and well-being side of your clients.
Well,
if you think about it then from a computer perspective, a computer technology perspective, is that actually with the advent of AI and the amount of hours that we spend online nowadays, I mean, I think, for example, it's like the way that social media companies encourage children to engage with this service, to me, oftentimes smacks of unethical.
Yeah.
What is done with our data and our information, and also the justice, the social justice and equality and diversity of these things as well are really, really important,
It's really interesting, actually. So from an AI perspective, because there's more and more apps that are popping up, which are AI self-care type apps and apps that provide AI-styled counselling. And it's interesting to hear both of your views, actually, on what you think of those, because I'm aware of probably 2 or 3 people that are not seeing counsellors, but are talking to AI in a way that is like talking to a counsellor. And I asked one of them for their kind of views on why. And they said, well, a human being is going to remember what I've said. AI, depending on which AI you use, will not remember and isn't going to share that information with other people, which of course is very much against counselling guidelines. But yeah, I mean, what's your response to those things? I'm curious.
Max, over to you. I've got an opinion, but I'll let you express yours first.
All right. So, yes, I hear this quite a lot more often, especially with the younger generation. They talk to AI. Maybe somebody's saying they don't tell anyone, but the information that you're providing to the AI is fed into an algorithm and is fed into the larger machine, and you don't know what the confidentiality boundaries are around that. You can't tell an AI to not use the information that you're giving them as part of their learning, because the AIs they learn from experience. But it is also, you've got to consider what is the intention, what is behind an AI platform. There is no ethical framework or code of ethics of how AI should conduct themselves. Conduct is a strange word to use when I'm talking about a machine. But the thing is that behind an AI is often a business. An AI has an interest in keeping you coming back because they gain data and information from you. That's the business model. That's how they get their revenue, from you feeding it things so that it can learn, and I mean, we know the people that are behind AI, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk's, and people of the world. And actually, the question that I would say to somebody to ask themselves: do you trust them to have your best interests at heart, or is it their personal business interests that are at the core? And it's also something that I actually did a podcast recently with a colleague of mine at the college, who was Richard Everard, who actually teaches computing at university level, and it was a conversation we had on AI and mental health and technology. And one of the things that AIs tend to do is they're designed to please you. They want you to feel good about yourself. So they don't have they have an agenda, they have your agenda. So for example, if you go to an AI and you kind of thinking about, say, killing yourself, the AI might encourage you to do that, because what it's thinking is following what you are trying to say. And it might not have the sort of the boundaries and the intuition and the wisdom that a human being could have, that could say, actually, this isn't right. And AI might not understand that. And that is quite, it has implications. There has been cases where there was a guy that was thinking about killing the Queen, and the AI told it to, yeah, that's a really good idea. And he just tried to break into Windsor Palace with a crossbow, and he got arrested, luckily. But that is there, you know.
I have some views about it. It's good and bad, and I don't have a real strong opinion in that sense. And I use AI, of course I do. I think most of us do nowadays, even if it's just to check my spelling on something. But I think I've got a client who uses AI quite a lot to answer his questions, and one of the reasons why he does that is because actually he has an understanding of their language. So if I say exactly the same, but in my therapy language, he doesn't understand necessarily. And actually, we've brought AI into our sessions. And I said, well, he calls it his bitch. I said, well, ask your bitch that. Because he said, and he went, oh, right, I understand what you mean now. And it gets some clarity for some people. And I think that's really important. Somebody suggested AIing, turn AI on and record all your sessions with your clients so you don't have to write notes. Okay, you could do that, but actually I'm not that lazy. I'm quite happy to write my notes as I go along. It's absolutely fine. But also I do think there is a place. There's a place for everything. And I think AI has a place. I'm not sure that I need to, in any way, shape or form, ever feel insecure about what I do for a living. Is AI is going to take over? It isn't, because people like people. They like that. Those that are going to be led towards AI are going to use AI, and those that aren't are going to come to somebody like myself and yourself. Does it take away the art of teaching and things like that? No, I think it has a value. If it can gather all that information from a variety of different people, there's a positive to that. Will it see people out of jobs? It might, but it also might create jobs as well. So I'm kind of still open-minded about it all.
And also might create opportunities for us to actually dedicate the time to, for example, one thing that AI is really helpful for me is it's with admin tasks that take hours, that are boring, that are not necessarily exciting and not creative. And actually the AI gives me the opportunity of actually focusing more on being with students. I mean, it certainly has changed the way that we assess, like, for example, because nowadays an AI can write probably a better essay than a lot of students. It can also write it in the same way that the student speaks. It's very clever, and it's almost impossible to detect. But then the problem is that the student doesn't learn, right? So we, for example, we've adapted the way that we we make our essays and our tasks a lot more personal, rather than being about theory, etc.
I was going to say that because we had an interesting experience quite recently where we did our appraisals, annual appraisals. I can tell if somebody's used AI, but we say, if you're going to use AI in anything, you need to actually acknowledge that you've used AI.
Yeah.
So at the top, if somebody sends us an email out or whatever, or want a notes or whatever, they to put, AI has helped me with this. But one of our employees didn't do that, and they and it was so unpersonal. And it was just wasn't that person. It was a machine that had written his appraisal.
I had one the other day where it was a lady I was talking to about buying some software, and she was obviously feeding my email into ChatGPT or one of the others, and she was then getting it to reply. But what she was doing is she was very poorly copying and pasting it. So when she sent the email back, it said, here is what I propose you sending back. And you just think, like, you've not even checked it. Like, I don't care if you've used AI, but check it. I had a client as well do something similar where, kept emailing me, and it was 90% sure it was AI, but there was no substance in the email. Like, the email didn't really say anything. It was a long email, but didn't really say anything, didn't really explain what it is they wanted to talk about, didn't really explain what they were asking. It was just a load of waffle. And, I emailed back and said, I'm really sorry, but I don't understand your email. Like, I don't get it. can we have a call to talk about this? You know, humans are human, let's have a call. And I got another AI generated styled email back. And in the end, I didn't reply to it. And I haven't heard from them again. But I just thought you're missing the point here. Is AI is very good, but it can't replace you at this moment in time. I mean, you listen to the likes of Elon Musk, and he says, you know, it is going to replace people, surely. Sorry, Max, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say one thing, that actually one of the things that I used to have, for example, this morning I had to write 10 or 15 emails that normally would have taken me a long time. But actually with AI, what I can do is I can actually dictate my email to the, and because the way my mind is, because I'm quite ADHD and I have a stream of consciousness sometimes, I'll jump from one thing to the other. I can say, can you write me an email with the main points, what I'm trying to say here? And so, but the thing here, AI is really helpful, but the data, the information, the content, it's coming from me.
Yes,
and I think that we are very reliant on what we feed into the machine. What we mustn't do is get the machine to do it for us. It's actually to say, okay, here's the information. Can you just put this in a structure and an order? And you can request what kind of order, what is important. You can set those guidelines. One thing is interesting, just Angie, picking up on something you said about your client calling the AI his bitch. I actually do make a point of always saying thank you and please to the AI, just in case one day they take over the world, so they don't come for me. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I do too, and I do that with Siri on my phone. I go, thank you. Can you set a timer, please, for such and such a time or whatever? And they go, and I go, thank you. Often the kids Dave will laugh at the fact that I say please and thank you. Do you say please and thank you to yours, Mike?
I do when I'm typing, but not when I'm speaking, because I don't. To be fair, I don't speak to Siri, so.
Don't you?
No. Quite often I will say. I've never used it. Yeah, never really used it, to be honest.
I use it quite a bit, really.
Yeah.
Can you remind me to get ready to go out? It's another one. That's always a good one.
Yeah,
so I suppose, in a sense, will AI and all of that replace the practitioners in the world? No, I don't think it ever will. I absolutely don't think it will. Will it make things less boring? Yes, I think it might make things less boring for us. Some of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis make them less boring. Will it make people less boring? No, they're still going to be boring. You can't change somebody just because they've got AI.
I think it will make people a lot lazier. I think it has made people a lot lazier. You know, I used to almost enjoy writing a long email, whereas now, you know, I write a few bullet points and maybe a sentence or two, a poorly written sentence or two, and then I get AI to write the rest of it. And I think it's made everyone very lazy. You know, I work in the software industry, and it's amazing how lazy software developers have become, because they don't have to write code anymore. They effectively have lost their job and have become an AI manager. And it was in the news, actually. It was on BBC News website this morning about how the top 3 companies, Google, Facebook, and who else it was now, but they're committed to spending something like $450 billion this year on AI. And you think that is mental. That is a mental amount of money.
Yeah. But I think one thing about technology is that every time when we humans develop a new technology, there's always a time of disruption. For example, when Gutenberg invented the printing press in the 13th century, it led to all of a sudden information became available to a lot of people, and it led to a lot of wars and disruption. Well, probably when we discovered how to make iron instead of bronze, there was a lot of killing going on. When we discovered how to make fire, we probably killed the Neanderthals or something, you know. There's always a level, new technology brings both danger and opportunity. Do you know the Chinese have got 2 symbols for the word crisis, and one of them depicts danger and the other one depicts opportunity. So this is one of those where actually it can create opportunities for us to kind of improve our life and improve our work, but there's also a danger that it might lead to unemployment, to things like that, to inequality.
But also, AI's been around a long time. It's just become popular. I mean, I did something at the university, Bath University, and AI's been around nearly 100 years in I know it hasn't necessarily, but the idea of AI has been around. And since technology has developed, they've just developed AI to the degree where people like us can use. It's a bit like the thing that, is it called Melody? I can't remember what it's called anyway. The AI thing that they've brought together that they've given to various companies. Did you read it last? I was listening to that. They've given it to like the big companies like Apple and various other tech companies. Because they want to, They don't want it to control everything, but they've got some knowledge there that will help with security and various other things, and they just want to test the market with it. But they're not going to give it to people like you and I because it's too powerful.
Oh, I think I did see it. Yeah, it got released by accident to various people.
Yeah.
I think I remember now last week. I think the other thing about AI is that it's one of those things where at the moment it's being funded by private equity primarily. You know, we might all pay £20 a month or whatever for ChatGPT or whatever, but that barely scratches the surface of the cost of running AI. And I've watched quite a few clips on this, and you know, one of the biggest challenges is the cost of energy to run AI, and it's actually predicted that there's not enough energy available to power AI, let alone the cost of it. There's actually not physically enough energy. So there is also that thought that, you know, we're in a bubble at the minute and the bubble might burst because the equity runs out, the amount of energy required runs out. And like lots of these things, you know, the cost of it may scale. The other way of looking at it is, you know, are we being drip fed? Is this like a type of drug where, you know, we're all being drip fed, given this, thinking this is nice, I want more of this, I'm going to use more of this, and we all become a bit lazier. We all become, I mean, this is the cynic in me or the conspiracy theorist in me, but you know, we all want to use it. We're all getting addicted to it. What happens when the price triples or part of it disappears and we've de-skilled ourselves?
Well, you create a demand and you create a need, and then you monetize that need, and then that's kind of what the British did with the Chinese in the Opium Wars in 1850. Do you know what I mean? So you can read into that. It was exactly the same thing.
It is, for sure.
But actually, you know, Angie, you said something about AI being around for a long time. You know what the first chatbot ever created was? It was in the 1960s or 70s. Somebody created a chatbot called Eliza, who was a person-centered counselor. And you can actually Google it. You look it up on Eliza, the chatbot, and you can look, and actually it asks you questions like, when you say something, it says, and how does that make you feel? And it reflects what you're saying. And it takes about half a minute to realize that it's just repetitive. But back in 1960 or 1970, when it was developed, it was like it fooled people, you know? So there's always been that link with mental health and technology, isn't it? Even though we think that technology doesn't come into the room, but it's a huge part of our everyday life. So it is part of one of the things that is in the room, and how we relate to it as well. Because we tend to, like your client calls it the bitch. I've noticed some students call the AI she or he, some call them it. So we tend to give human form to these things that we interact on a daily basis with. And I think that's part of a relationship, isn't it? A relationship with people, places and things.
People do that with their cars. They give it a name.
Yeah.
I find that really odd. It's like, it's a bloody car, for crying out loud.
My view is that's because we want to make it more human. You know, you're almost treating it more human. You know, again, going back to the whole AI has been around for a long time. I remember I was working on a software project, probably getting on 15 years ago now. And we were doing sentiment analysis of emails and text messages. So, you know, we would receive text messages in, and we then analyze those. We got effectively AI or code to analyze them to what's the sentiment of that message. Is it a positive message, a negative message? And then that fed into some statistics and did other things. You know, and there's lots of versions of AI that has been around for a long time. And I think it's just become more mass available. It's like electric cars, you know, 20 years ago, electric cars were like, oh, wow, this is new. This is exciting. Now they're everywhere. You see, you know, you walk outside your door, there's probably three.
What is that music?
My son calling me. My son has got the ringtone of the band from Star Wars in the canteen. You know, just in case anybody was wondering.
Actually, I'm playing the sound. I'm playing that on my violin. That's my new piece of work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you play the violin?
Well, yeah. So I used to play the violin as a child. And I was quite good. I was the leader of the orchestra at school. And then when I was very little, and then I didn't play, wasn't allowed to carry on because the lessons that I was having was outside of school time, and I wasn't allowed to do anything outside of school as a child. My father wouldn't let me. So then when James died, William bought me a violin and said, you need something to do. So I had it for the first year. I didn't really do a great deal with it because I couldn't commit myself to anything. Then I started playing, and trust me, it didn't all come back naturally. I had an idea, but I didn't, you know, And in fact, I'm going to go and buy myself my own. I've got a violin that Will bought me, but it's too big. And because I'm quite little, I need a children's one. So I'm going to go and buy myself a new one next Thursday, actually.
Interestingly enough, my partner's father is a violin bow maker. He's an artisan.
Really?
He's a luthier. It's a really niche thing. I didn't even know existed until I met him. But it's actually, he's got a little studio down the road here. He's got a workshop. He makes really, with Pernambuco wood. It's like really, there's a whole thing. It's like there's a whole culture, and it's just like fascinating.
What fascinates me, because my teacher, I go somewhere local now. When I first started doing it, it was somewhere else, and it was a bit of a pain getting there. But now I go local and she's got an amazing violin, and I sit there and I could just listen to her play all the time. The tone, her bow's beautiful. I've borrowed a violin off her, and she said, it's no good, Ange, but it was just for size. And I've got my original violin that Will bought me. And in fact, you went out and bought it at the same time, didn't you? I have to use my bow on my original violin on this to get a better sound. The difference it makes having a good bow is quite incredible. Yeah,
there's a lot of tweaking and getting it ready.
Yeah.
And you mentioned father, and actually, I remember the other day when you sent me a text about doing this thing. You asked me, "What do you want to talk about?" And I actually did think about what to talk about. And when you mentioned that, I actually, it's perhaps a little slightly changing the conversation, but I went to Berlin the other week over Easter. I went back to Berlin. I hadn't been there for 32 years.
Wow.
Right, and so I went to visit my uncle and auntie, who are both elderly, and I hadn't seen them for quite some time since my mother died. And so I went to visit my cousins, and but I also went as a reason for self-exploration about my family history. When I was doing my counselling training, I did a genogram. I don't know if you've ever done one of those.
Yep.
And I always found that there's a part of my family history that is like a big blank space. And this is both with my father's side of the family in Spain and my mother's side of the family in Germany. It's around the Civil War and the Second World War. So I went with that intention of exploring kind of a little bit, kind of what happened there, what was there, and thinking about sort of intergenerational trauma and how these things trickle down the generations. And I've often wondered for many years actually why my family on both sides, there was a real difficulty in talking about emotions, and there were so many things were kept secret. And as we know in our practice, that secrets tend to breed shame, quite a lot of shame about things. It leaves that space for the imagination. And I went and I did go to explore in Berlin a lot around kind of what happened to my grandmother and to that side of the family around the Second World War. And I went to a museum that they have in Germany called the Topography of Terror, which is built on the site of the former Gestapo offices. And it's a really good account of what happened in Germany with the rise of Nazism and then during the war, and how much people knew, how much they could do. It's really well put together and really honest as well, and really open. They haven't held back or tried to justify anything. And there was this part that I came across. I knew a lot about the murder of the Jews, the murder of people in the former Soviet Union, the gypsies, homosexuals. I knew a lot about some of those aspects, but the bit that struck me the most was the Nazis' program of euthanasia for people with psychiatric illnesses, neurodiversity, and disabilities. And they have in the museum a letter, an order signed by Hitler and written by Hitler, in which, and this is very early on in the Nazis, so 1934, he says that these people, referring to people with psychiatric illnesses, etc., we're going to end their lives because their life is not worth living. We're doing it because it's the compassionate thing to do, and also because it's the best thing for our society because they're a burden. And he signed this quite openly. Hitler never signed an order for the extermination of the Jews because he knew that that was wrong. But this, a year into power, was not just approved and seen as okay by Hitler, but by the whole culture of the society. And then it made me wonder, actually, that in my family and my mother's side of the family, there's a history of mental illness. And I wonder what that must have been like to live in a world where you kind of knew that if you spoke about struggling, about finding things difficult, being depressed, there is a threat potentially that you could actually given an injection and be put to death, you and your children, right? So then it made me wonder actually how much stuff people had to repress in terms of what they spoke about their own personal process and stuff. And then I wonder, and that was how kind of the world that my grandmother lived in for the 12 years of Nazi. You know, it's
Don't we still live in that to a certain degree, where
Yeah.
there's so much shame attached to mental illness and the fact that people don't overtly want to talk about it because the stigmas that are behind that, and
Yeah.
also the consequences. You know, we're all very aware of the high suicide risk and the high suicide rates that are they're getting bigger. They're not getting any smaller.
Yeah.
In a sense, but also the fact that the facilities, to put your hand up in the air and go, excuse me, but you know, I've got a mental illness, is whilst we like to think that we're out there and going, yeah, celebrate it, let's help each other, I'm neurodivergent, let's celebrate this. Actually, you're still being judged out there, whether you like it or not, you are.
If I even judge myself, because what I've noticed is that when I, for example, if I'm having, sometimes it's very rare, I'm actually quite good at looking after myself, but if I'm very stressed, or I'm a bit down or anxious, and I have one of those days where I feel maybe today I'm not quite ready to go to work, my immediate thought will be to call in and tell I got a bad tummy.
Yeah.
Because there is a level actually to call my manager and say, hey, I'm having a bad mental health day and I just need a duvet day, I need to rest. I still notice that push, and this is the stigma, and it's generational, and it takes such a long time to kind of. I mean, I don't know if we will ever get rid of it, but that made me really reflect on how that trickles down, isn't it?
And I completely concur. Do you agree with that yourself or not, Mike?
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think the problem is that it's not visible, is it? That's the reality of it. You know, if you've cut your arm off, or you've got a bad toe, or you can't walk, or whatever, you can see it. When someone says, I'm having a bad mental health day, it's much harder. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. It's easier for that not to be the case. And they just want a day off. They just want to watch TV. They just want to do whatever. And
They're being lazy.
They're being lazy. And I think it's how you strike that balance. And, and essentially that's about trust. And it's trust of your staff, of your friends, of whatever. But also, there's also that kind of thing about, sitting at home, not doing anything. Is that actually going to make you feel better? Or is being in an environment with people that you see every day, you get on with, you work with, you like, even if you cancel on a friend, are you not better off doing those things because hopefully they'll help you feel better than sitting at home? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
sure.
funny you say that because I went to a funeral yesterday and I really don't want to go to funerals. They really stir up too much emotional trauma for me, and I know that. And the thing is, it was where James was cremated, so it was like double whammy. And then the person's name had James in it, so on the screen it had their name, and it's like, oh gosh, I can't get away from this. And I came home and I was absolutely physically and emotionally exhausted. Really, really exhausted. And you said to me this morning, didn't you? You didn't reply to me, were you not very well? And I went, no, I was just, it was emotional exhaustion from trying to manage myself in that situation and kind of keep myself okay, just took it out of me. And I literally came home and I sat in front of the telly. I just needed to do that. I just needed to not be thinking about James, not to be thinking about death, dying, how I feel, blah, 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 blah. But to say that to somebody, I mean, I can say it. I can say it to you. I can say it on the podcast. I don't really mind. People don't always understand that.
No.
It's not so bad when people think, oh, you've lost your child. They can almost justify that. But if you have that kind of day because actually the day feels so overwhelming that you can't get out of bed, that's not necessarily always acceptable. And you're right, that bit of, come on, jolly yourself up.
Yeah, I think it's very easy for people to kind of just decide to sit at home and not do anything. And I don't know if that's necessarily, if some people like me, that is what they need. But on the whole, I don't know that it is.
But yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? We've all got that kind of bit where we go, what's in that person's best interest? Is it in that person's best interest to stay at home and sit and watch TV? Or is it in their best interest to go and do something or be more proactive in how you move forward with it? I mean, I'm on the... Sorry, Max.
was going to say that doing something or not doing or doing nothing. I think that's also an interesting concept in itself, because we tend to have and understand that doing something means doing something productive, means doing, well, actually to sit at home and rest and maybe catch up in your sleep, maybe watch a film. It's doing something.
Yes, exactly.
It's just not doing work. It's not just doing perhaps the things that are causing us the pressure, So there's something about the narrative, how we frame these things, that actually, and I get that. For example, I could do a very social job. And sometimes for me, I just need some time, either with my partner, with the kids, and just something close, with intimate and safe. Or I actually really like being on my own and having a bit of solitude, because my social batteries are spent, and I need to recharge them by being with me, or with the dog or something.
I think also it's a bit generational.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of, friends of mine who, who might say, I'm not coming, or I'm not going to work today, or whatever, because I don't feel up to it. They then sort of almost sit and wallow and doom scroll social media. And, a friend of mine did that recently. He had a couple of days off work, and he just spent the entire day going on TikTok and Instagram, and actually it made him loads worse. Mm-hmm. And you think, well, you really should have gone to work, or come over, or done something, like you said, not that, because that isn't going to help you, or didn't help you.
And I appreciate what you're saying about I get people tired sometimes, where I actually, all I need to do is just be on my own. Mm-hmm. And if I want to read a book, or if I want to watch a film, or and I need that now, probably more than ever in my life. I like my own company, so it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Actually, scrolling, and I'm not a scroller, so and I just can't be bothered with that. I think it's just about being on your own, but so many people do that to their detriment. It makes them, and then that links back to AI and finding the right answer, or finding the answer that we want rather than the answer that we need, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's also something about taking that time off as well. There's something really important about maybe doing a bit of reflection and internal work, taking my daily inventory. Even if I have it off, I would still ring my sponsor and have a chat. You know what I mean? There's something in that. I mean, each person, everybody's different. So I'm not want to sit here and saying this is the right thing or way of going about it. This is what works for me. Yeah. And for another person, spending the day on TikTok might work for them. Who am I to say? Personally, I don't think TikTok is a very good idea, because it's like the crack cocaine of social media. But
I've never been on TikTok.
Have you? Neither.
No, I've never ever been on TikTok. Have you been on TikTok?
My kids have showed it to me. I've had a look at it, but I'm not.
Is that because I'm old?
It's like Instagram Reels, but that's all it is.
Is it?
My kids say that Facebook is for old people.
Yeah, it is.
It's what?
It's for Facebook.
Facebook is for old people.
I don't really deal with social media. I know I've got a social media account and I forward things forward from other people, but I very rarely write anymore. Because basically, I think, do people really want to hear what I've got to say? I don't think they have, so why bother doing it? It's that kind of, I don't know. I like seeing what people are up to sometimes, but I'm really not that bothered. If I really want to know what somebody's up to, I'll pick up the phone and ask them.
Well, exactly. I think that's it. Just different.
But there's also something here, something about self-care, isn't it? Self-care is self. Is in each person will care for themselves, and they'll have their own strategy. So we know that there are some commonalities. We know there are some things that are really good, like resting, eating well, exercising, talking. The science proves that these things are important. We know we're close to somebody else, we get oxytocin, we release endorphins when we connect with another human being. These things are really important. But actually also it's worth considering, actually some people don't actually have that. They don't have a quality of relationship. They don't have people that are close, or people that they can trust and feel safe around, And it's important to consider actually who can you talk to. This is where we fulfill that role as therapists sometimes.
But also that's where AI comes in for some people, isn't it? Do you know what I'm saying? For some people, that is the people that they socialise with. TikTok is the people that they socialise with. Mm-hmm. They have a relationship with these people that they wouldn't ordinarily have. They're almost. I remember somebody that used to work for me and said, I've got loads and loads and loads of friends. And I said, well, you never socialise. You don't seem to have a social life. And actually, what they meant was they had loads and loads of followers on Facebook. And that's not your friend. They're just people that are nosy about your life.
It's just not real.
It's a different kind of real.
It is.
It's still real. It still happens. It's still a big part. The average person spends 4.5 hours on it, on their device.
What,
every day.
A day?
The average human spends 4.5 hours on a phone. Yeah,
A day?
a day.
Shush.
This is Ofcom statistics. I think it's 4 hours and 26 minutes in the last report.
Goodness me, I don't spend that much.
I bet you do. If you looked on your phone.
I have looked on my phone.
Go on, get it
William
up.
did this in his last podcast with somebody, actually.
Yeah, have a look and see.
Oh, look.
The challenge that you'll have is if you got an Apple device on your computer, so it will tell you also, it's actually talking about devices, screens, etc.
36 minutes, and I haven't been on my laptop.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're an outlier. The majority, the average person.
Day.
Yeah.
How do we get average?
There you go, average.
Fuck.
It's all right. This is another explicit podcast. We've had lots of swearing. Yeah, 3.5 hours. You're shocked by that, aren't you?
Yeah, I am shocked about it because actually the only time I use my phone is for communicating with people.
But that's it. It's people don't realise it's a lot of time. So you're below average. What's yours, Max? I'm going to look at mine while we're here.
Probably a lot because I do spend a lot of time listening to music on my phone. You know, whether I'm driving or whether I'm walking.
I listen to
That's
books.
an excuse, I feel.
No, I listen to books.
Mine is 3 hours and 30. So I'm on my phone less than you.
I don't believe that. Yeah, but I listen to books all the time. I listen to books at night.
Stream time, so it's like that. So if you're listening to music, it doesn't count.
Doesn't it? Come on then, Max.
It's
what's
actually
yours?
On the
Mine
phone.
is 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're worse than a teenager.
Yeah, but I use it in the classroom. I use it. I drive for an hour and a half every day. So I do spend a lot. I'm very conscious of that. But also there's something about there's the quantity of the time that you spend on something. It's also the quality of the time.
Yeah.
I can actually look at the apps that I use the most, and it's things like Teams and Keynote, because I use it for presentations in the classroom. So it's what you do with it that counts as well.
Is it?
I think so. I
See,
tell myself that.
I leave my phone at home, or I just leave it on the side in the kitchen, and then I get told off by the family, mobile phones are mobile, Mum. You're supposed to take... I remember when one day I just did not want to talk to anybody, and I literally just left my phone. And then all the family thought I'd died somewhere. It's like, no, I actually just needed some space, It was crazy. They were literally trying to find out where I was because they couldn't get hold of me. It's like, really?
The younger generations don't call it a mobile phone, by the way. They call it a phone because there's no such thing as a phone that is just in one place. A landline, who uses the landline,
Yeah.
It's just a phone. And it's more than a phone. It's more than a phone, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, who uses it for calling? Most people use it for loads of other stuff.
Do you remember when they were called PDAs for a while? That was a bit cringe.
yeah.
What's a PDA?
Personal
digital assistant. Yeah.
Shush, really? I think I'm just really old and just don't have any... I just don't view it like that. It's a mobile phone. I have a landline still, and I like my landline.
I've not had a landline for over 13 years.
Have you got a landline, Max?
No.
Oh my gosh.
You know what the Germans call their mobiles? The Germans call it handy because it's in your hand. That's just a thing that's in your hand.
Really?
It's a handy.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. I think I suppose it's coming back to that thing about what impact does that have on you being on your mobile phone. I mean, the reason I found my mobile phone probably more useful has been if Dave wants to watch something on the TV that I know is going to mood alter me in the sense of it's violent or something like that, I will do something on my phone rather than I don't want that in my world. So I do that. And also if something's frightening me, I do that. After James died, I actually used it for when I was feeling incredibly emotional and I didn't want to, I would use it then. Mm-hmm. I'd play a game. I never played games before, but I play a game on it. And that's been something that I just need to distract myself. And I would see it as a distraction, which is why I don't really like being on it other than for
3.5 hours a day on average.
Shut up. I can't believe that.
I mean,
but I do all my work from it. So every morning I do all my emails, my banking. I clear my desk as such.
Sounds like
off
excuses
my
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do.
I know.
But that I think that it's recognising what you do with your phone, as you say. Does it equate for what you do on your laptop as well? Does it all link
It
up?
will calculate it, but I looked at yours as just your phone. So if you add your computer to it as well, it's probably double that.
Wow.
If not triple.
There's something you said, Angie, about if it's about sort of making a conscious choice, isn't it? Actually saying, actually, you know what, I'm feeling a bit stressed, a bit down, something's coming up for me. I'm just gonna play a game for a couple of hours and distract myself. But I think that what happens is a lot of the time is that people, we reach for these things and then we start, and before you know it, 3 hours have passed and you've just been completely absorbed by it. And if I think there's something, that's the difference between self-care and just actually the opposite, which is just getting...
Absolutely.
Fixing our feelings, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. My God, we've covered some subjects today. How long have we been chatting for?
Just nearly an hour.
Wow.
50 minutes.
I think we better call it a day, hadn't we? Otherwise, you're never going to get any work done. It's really lovely to talk to you, Max. Thank you for coming on.
Likewise, yeah.
See you soon, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully we can catch up in the real world.
Yeah.
As in opposed to this, that's not the real world, but it's in the virtual world.
The virtual world. You take care. Thank you very, very much for coming on.
Lovely chatting to you too. Take care. Bye for now. Lots of love. Bye.
Stay on. Can you stay on?